So I'm really going to be experimenting today because I got this, I don't know if you can see this, I got this new, show up, brush. It's a fan brush. I need a white background. Anyway, it's got these little teeth carved into it. Thought it'd be interesting to try out on the trees. So in all my setting up, I got a glass of water for me, but I didn't get a glass of water for the brushes. All right, I guess I need a station identification brake notification to put up on the screen. So let me go get my water for the brushes. I'll need to make a checklist of all the stuff that I need to do and have on hand before I go live. Well, let's see how this new little brush works. It's pretty stiff. I'm sure it'll get fuzzier over time. All right. So up here on the trees, I had laid this in last time I was painting just to get some depth and color to it. Now I'm going to go in and start putting in some more of the details of, get some texture to it. Yeah, I don't know if I like that or not. I don't know that I'm enamored with this brush. Maybe for doing eyelashes on puppy dog pictures or something, but I'm not happy with that one. Now we'll go back to the old standby. See if I can fix this. I feel like I smeared it a little bit. So, yeah, not seeing any live comments live on. I figure out how that works. Of course, this is an experiment with using Facebook. I normally use YouTube. I'm just making a mess of these trees. I'm not happy. Let's lighten this up a bit. Oh, there's the problem.
Not sure how that's coming out on the computer, but I actually think I fixed that one a little bit. I'll leave that one for a second. Come back to it. Yeah. Yeah, got a lot going on in the tree.
I should put some music on in the background because I know I'm not talking much about during this. I'd probably talk more if I could see the comments, but I can't see any of the comments. There's only two. I mean, this is a test page. I don't know that many people have likened this page yet. I'm just doing this basically to try to build up some video that I can use for intros and things like that to add to production quality. Now, I'm doing a lot of this from memory. I should pull the photo out. I have it around here somewhere. I didn't set it up to bring it up on the screen. Do it with the photo. All right. Photo break. Let's find the photo. Ha! That's what I did with the photo. Okay. Let's do that. Okay, so you remember I posted on one of my pages a picture of this Southern Pacific narrow gauge 460, what we call a 10-wheeler. This is number 18, the Slim Princess. This was brought back into steam a couple of years ago by the Carson and Colorado group in Independence, California. And this summer, the SP18 went out to Durango and has been running on the Durango Silverton line this summer in order to be a training locomotive for the engineers out there, because the Durango Silverton line is changing over from coal-fired to oil-fired because of concerns about starting forest fires from coal cinders and things like that. People are pointing fingers. Nobody knows exactly how those fires started. People are making claims that, whatever. So going oil-fired is a better way to go, and so they're using 18 as a training. And I got a chance to go out and see 18 when they brought it back into steam a few years ago. Went to the grand opening of their new engine house, which is in Independence, California, and met up with a few other live steamers from the from California area as well that I run small-scale live steam trains with. In fact, I've got right in here in front of me, you can't see it in this shot, but my model of number 9 SP narrow gauge is sitting right there. So I've got a nice detail model to look at when I get down to this area here and start putting in 18. So I've got to get this stuff laid in, these shrubs and that some foliage laid in here before I start going on to the locomotive, because when I block in the locomotive I want to have the backdrop completed, because you've got to, when painting, it's always good to work from the back forward. That's always been a hard thing for me to try to conceptualize, working from the back forward, working from the distance forward. All of my paintings as a young man, when I was learning how to do art, I always concentrated up front on the details, things that were there, and I always worried about the background later because I was doing drawing. A lot of it was drawing. But when I went from drawing to painting, now I had to rethink things and work from the background in, so that when you lay things in on top of stuff, trying to go back in and put background elements in place and not covering up and not bleeding over into your main subject is not the easiest thing. So unless you mask off with tape or a masking element like they do in watercolors sometimes. So I want to get these trees here laid in and done up here before I start putting in the locomotive. So that's what I'm working on today. Will I get any part of the locomotive laid in today? Probably not. I'm going to be spending most of the day pretty much up here all in this area getting these trees worked out. So all right, that's what I'm doing today. That's what I'm working on. Back to it. Let's see. Too wet. Okay, excuse me for a moment. I'm going to make some noise. So one nice thing about acrylics is you can, since we work in layers, whether it's oils or acrylics, painting is working up and building up in layers. And so with acrylics, you can dry things really quickly. When I did the Bob Ross class last month, in fact, I have another class coming up next Saturday, this next weekend. And, you know, you had to be careful carrying the canvas out to the car. You had to be careful bringing it into the house. I had to put it somewhere where it wouldn't, you know, be bothered or disturbed because it's wet, and oil paints take. I just checked it yesterday. It's been 4 weeks now, and it's pretty much dry, but it still feels like it might be a little bit tacky if you press too hard. So it takes a long time for the oil paints to dry. So. You know, back in the days of the old masters, I'd like to think that they were working on more than one painting at a time so they could set it off to the side while waiting to do the next layer. Or they were working with very, very thin layers of oils one at a time and waiting for them to dry. One of the two. But I'll tell you, you know, 3 to 4 weeks for a painting to dry before you can put on the next layer. That's ridiculous. And you can't use a hairdryer to dry oil paints because the paint, when it dries, it's actually going through an oxidation process and changing. That was weird. My little iPad that I have down here close to me, if I bring up I don't want that. Anyway, you can't see it on this shot, but anyway, everything just cut out, so I guess I'm live again. And I don't know, did we pick up where I left off? I don't know. I'll find out. I say I normally use YouTube for live streams. I'm using this program called Switcher Studio, which allows me to have more than one camera. I put the system together before going out to the National Summer Steam Up, where I was streaming live from out there, the activities that were going on. And it's a monthly subscription software, which I'm not enamored with. How everything's going to the cloud, everything's you have to subscribe to, and if you lose your connectivity, well, you've lost your stream. And I don't know what just happened there, but things went away for a second. I came back pretty quick. I can't complain about that, I guess. So I get a section of a tree right, and then I go and mess with it, and then I don't like the way it looks. All right, I'll have to come back to that one. All right. I did something, and I don't like the way it looks. It's too. Well, I know what the problem is. They look too much like Italian cypresses and not like pine trees. They're too skinny all the way down. Maybe when I come back in with some white highlights, that'll fix them up. So I need to mix some more paints. Is my overhead still working? There we go. Yeah, you get to see me mix paints. That's exciting, isn't it? Well, that's what everybody that does these painting shows do. They show you their palette, how they mix the paints and everything, and they run things off to the side like, you know, here's the main colors that I'm using, and mixing all of the colors from this, which is your basics. Yellow, red, blue. We all learned how to mix those in grade school, right? Come up with the all the different colors. So anyway, that's what I'm working with. So we'll go back to this shot here, and you can look at the back of my head. Isn't that exciting? Wow. I mix up some more of the darker green here. Sometimes I like the way things turn out, sometimes I don't. I'm probably my worst critic. I've got another painting that I was working on. It's on my page there from the seascape that I called End of Summer. And I goofed on it. I didn't. When I went to go put the horizon out on it, I was sitting here at an angle to the to my easel, and what happened was I actually put the horizon in and it went down, and I didn't realize it until I pulled the canvas off my easel, set it up, and stood back from it. It's like, oh my goodness, it's like a view from a puppy dog that's got his head turned to the side because the horizon's going down. I wasn't happy with that, so I was gonna attack it and try to see if I could clean it up, and I posted it and said, well, here's what I've got done so far, and I think I'm going to fix it. And everybody said, no, leave it alone. They're probably right. Maybe if I went in and tried to mess with it, I'd make it worse than what it is. But you know, I was watching a video that this one young man out in Washington State does. He's an excellent artist. He does a really good job. His YouTube channel is Color by Felix, Feliks, Color by Felix. And I've been watching him paint for a while now, getting tips and hints, because when I got into acrylics, I didn't really have a mentor or anyone to say, you know, this is how you work with acrylics. And I had the same problem when I was growing up and taking classes. My first class in oils was between fourth fourth and fifth grade at summer school. It was the same year that I started playing the trumpet, and I took an oil painting class there for the 5 weeks that we had summer school at the elementary school. And basically, it was like, okay, you've got and we had these canvas, thick, heavy canvas kind of paper stuff to use. Nothing on boards or real canvas. And the teacher was like, okay, here's the basic introduction to oils. We've got this. We've got turpentine. We've got, that'll thin it out a bit. You don't want it too runny, too thin. That was it. No discussion really on you're going to build in layers. And we're going to do this. I had one painting that I worked on in that class for the entire 5 weeks. And the canvas paper stuff came in a big flip thing. And of course, it had a cover sheet. And at the end of the day, I'd fold that cover sheet down and the paint underneath was wet and things would stick to the back. I'd come in the next day to work on it and I'd lift the cover sheet up and it would stick and paint would come off, and I think eventually I'd learn to say, I don't do that. That's not what you want to do. But anyway, so it was like, here's the oils, have at it. A little bit of, well, if you want to mix this color and you want to mix this color, do this. There was a little bit of that in there. Went out on a field trip to some place where there was a farm and a barn, and set up and was doing an quick oil sketch, and the wind would kick up and dust and dirt would get into the oils, and you'd have this extra texture. It's like, oh, that's cool. But it was, it was sure painting by brute force. So when I got back into doing painting, after I figured it out, about 38 years of not painting, when I got back into it, thanks to my lovely wife, Debbie, who got us going to a friend's paint and sip. And it's like, it was the same thing. We started with simple sketches, 2-hour sketches, painting, socializing, having a great time. And I'm my worst critic. It's like, what's wrong with me? Why? I used to be able to know how to draw. I used to be able to know how to paint, I thought. What's going on? So I started watching a lot of these videos, and what am I missing in techniques? And if you're painting in acrylics, there's techniques you use there that are different from the painting in oils. And especially if you're doing like Bob Ross kind of paintings, which is a wet technique, that was brought back into fashion when he and his mentor had shows on PBS. They brought that wet to the forefront, because wow, here in 28 minutes you can have a finished painting. Well, he was a very prolific, fast painter. The Bob Ross class that I took last month and we'll be taking here in a week, it's 4 hours long. We're there for 4 hours working on the painting. It's like, wait a minute, shouldn't we be able to do these in 28 minutes? That was the length of the Bob Ross show, on TV for each episode. But no, it takes a little longer. But anyway, it's been a lot of fun learning the new techniques and watching videos. And so this is more about my journey back into what I used to do as a passion. Years and years ago, what I thought I wanted to be when I grew up, I went to started going to college in order to become an art teacher. And then that was in California, and then the state of California said, by the way, if you're going to be an art teacher, um, that's now your minor. You got to major in either reading, writing, or arithmetic. You're not going to get a job as a teacher. And none of those things interested me. It's like I was taking a literature class, and I didn't understand half of what the professor was talking about. So you read a book and then try to sort out the hidden meaning. What is the author really saying here, and all this other stuff. And I was like, I don't know where you're getting that from, but I sure didn't get any of that hidden meaning when I was reading it. So, needless to say, I didn't do well in that class. So I sort of dropped it and said, I don't want to be an artist. I want to paint. I want to make mistakes on campus like I just did now. Hey there. That's terrible. Too much black. That's a mess. Alright. Too dark. Too much. Just messed up royally. Alright. Well, gonna make some noise to see if we can try this and fix it. Now, if this was a tree that was up close in the foreground, and that harsh shading might work, but since it's supposed to be in the distance, it's not supposed to be that harsh. And I wasn't happy when I blocked in the other trees and put the background, the lighter color in a couple of weeks ago. I wasn't really too happy with that, so we'll let that dry. Slide this over a little bit. I've got a little shadow here because I've got my camera up there for when I go to the here's my palette view. So you can see a messy palette. I don't know. People like that stuff. Because before I set this up, I was like watching all these other videos, and it's like, well, okay, so they've got this viewpoint, this viewpoint. Some of them don't use a switcher or anything to move around from different things, and so I thought, well, wouldn't it be fun to have a painting thing set up to where you could actually switch back and forth between things and talk about what colors you're using on your palette and everything. And so I'm like, oh, since I've got this software on my little iPad, maybe I should play with it some. And anyway. So, let's see if we can lighten up this mistake because it was way too dark. I don't know. We'll see. Let's see, and then sometimes I get something in there that's way too greenish. Should have left that part alone. By the way, when I showed you earlier the overhead shot of my palette, these colors all up here, that's from 2 weeks ago. It's dried. That's from 2 weeks ago. I use palette paper. In fact, I've been carrying around this palette paper for like 40 years. It's still good. You still use it. But those are the colors I used when I blocked in the background. So let's see.
Okay.
And I'm using some artist license here. I'm not going exactly as the photo shows color wise or anything. You can see that down here in this part of the photo, it's with the dry grasses, very yellow and white and that. So and I've got this picture is cropped off. I don't know what's over here on this side. Is there a hillside that goes away? There could be. I know approximately where this photo was taken, so I could actually go into Google Earth and look at the topology from above and figure out what is further over that's cropped out of the photo. In fact, if I went back and looked at the photos that were part of the album that this came from, and I really haven't talked about that. This photo was taken by a live steam friend of mine who also went to the unveiling of the engine house in Independence for this locomotive back when they brought it back into steam. And his name is Kevin Schindler. He lives up in northern California, and I get to see him. The past few years, I've actually seen him once or twice a year going to live steam events, running our model trains. And he took this photo because he went out to Durango during the special. This train was a special train they put together, and a lot of the volunteers from Independence that brought the locomotive back into steam were out there that week. So he followed and chased it, and I think he actually wrote on it too. And he had a whole album of photos on Facebook, and so since I didn't get out there and he did, I was like, oh, okay, well, hey Kevin, I'm gonna rip off your photo and do a painting of it. So he gave me a thumbs up, so I'm okay. So hopefully I can do his photo justice with this painting. And as I mentioned earlier, this is actually my first attempt at doing some railroad art. There's a lot of really good railroad artists out there, and when it comes to doing the locomotive, if you don't do it right, your model train friends are going to let you know. Yeah, they're going to let you have it. So anyway, because it's all about the trains. But anyway, I'm hoping I can do his photo justice with this as my first attempt at doing this locomotive, which is one of my favorites, having grown up in Southern California in the Mojave Desert, where this locomotive ran north of there in the Owens Valley. There's a long history about it. I could talk for hours about the history because I've researched it, and I actually gave a little talk one year at one of the steam ups about the Southern Pacific narrow gauge, which began as the Carson in Colorado, originating in Mound House, Nevada, outside of Carson City. The gentleman that started the railroad also owned and started the Virginia and Truckee Railroad. which is not a narrow gauge railroad. That's a standard gauge railroad. A lot of people get that mixed up. Anyway, so since this operated just north of where I grew up, and the funny thing is that the Owens Valley, which is north of the high Mojave Desert, and it's actually still considered part of the Mojave Desert. They closed down that line it was 1960. They closed that line down. Now, our family moved into the Antelope Valley, the high Mojave Desert area there north of Los Angeles, in 1959. And of course, from 1955 up until the closing in 60, they had brought a little diesel in to operate. And so it had been dieselized, but they still had number 9 in ready service to use, and they had some rail fan trips. We never found out about them, never knew about it, because the rail fan trips happened before we got into the area, and my dad, having been born and raised in Southern California, if you ever mentioned the Owens Valley, he'd just look at you and say, well, the Owens Valley's dead. And he said, Los Angeles took all the water from the Owens Valley. The dry lake, Owens Dry Lake, which we used to drive past when going up to an area camping called Red Rock Canyon. It's like, it was a dry lake. Well, it used to be a completely filled lake at one time, but Los Angeles took all the water, and now it was a dry lake, and there was nothing to, if you wanted to do anything, you had to go through the Owens Valley and get up into the Sierras to go fishing higher up on the Owens River to really do anything, because after the town of Bishop, the Owens River just really didn't even exist much, because the water was being diverted down to LA. And so the idea of going up and going rail fanning, of course, then they shut down the line, and Southern Pacific pulled up all the rails and the ties, and in 1960 we'd only lived in the area for a year, and I was the only one in the family that was really into trains. So I didn't find out that this locomotive really existed until much, much later in life. And then I started researching. It's like, well, why didn't I learn about this when growing up in the valley? Well, I didn't learn about it because, as far as anyone was concerned, the Owens Valley was dead. It was a dead place. We would drive up that way, but we always made a left turn to go up into the Sierras when we went to Boy Scout camp up there. So never went far up into the valley at all. Okay, once again, too dark. That's okay, we'll fix it. Makes for some nice shadows and contrast. When you look at mountains and things that are far off, and you lose all the texture of them, and the further away they are, the lighter they get. And a lot of these tutorials on how to paint, it's like, let's make a nice light purple color you know, because when we look at mountains from afar, you know, the majestic, you know, purple mountains. And I didn't do that with this one because when I was looking at the photograph, it's like, well, is there really any purple in there? Well, there's a little bit of a ridge line in here, which I didn't put in. I sort of changed perspective and said, I'm not going to put that ridge line in. In retrospect, maybe I should have, to help make these trees look closer to us better. But, oh well. And as I get over to this side of the painting, you can see how much brighter it gets because of being more in direct sun. I'm constantly mixing with the brush and the ultramarine blue, the darker green that I want for the backdrop, and bringing just a little bit of black into it to get some shadow area. And some of this is still a little tacky, so I'm actually getting a little bit of a wet on wet effect there. Oh, well, that's not bad. Got a pencil line you can't see right here that I put in that maps out where the cab of the locomotive is. So this area, all this that I've splotched over here is not going to show up. And all these trees here are way back in the distance, so I think I'm gonna gray them up a bit. So this will be interesting. This is either going to work or it's going to be a big mistake, and I'm going to have to let it dry and paint over it. One of the interesting things about the old master paintings that hang in museums, you know, a lot of times they go out and they'll do take x-rays of them. And they've got an x-ray process now that allows you to go down certain depths and find individual layers, find out things where the artist made changes to the painting when he was painting it. Like, there's a figure that's leaning forward, but I don't like that, so I'm going to completely paint over them, and then paint the figure back. There's a whole layer of paint there. So there's a figure underneath. When I was traveling over in England one time, went to one of the old mansions. It was owned by the Secretary of State for Queen Elizabeth, Lord Burleigh. His last name was Cecil. Anyway, and they showed us a painting there where you could see it was a painting of a cherub, and it was in the chapel, and there was another arm starting to slowly appear over the course of years as changes of the atmosphere affected the painting, the underlayer that had been painted over started to show through. And there was this extra arm coming up. And of course, the conservators were all a buzz and a twitter about it, like, well, should we, paint over it to get it back into so it's not visible anymore? Or what should we do as part of the restoration of this thing? And they said, no, just let it go. This is, if this little cherub ends up with a third arm, so be it. This is just one of these things that happen. So, it's all about layers. So, oh, I started like that. Oh, that's getting better. Okay. Oh, I'm actually getting tired of working on trees. Bob Ross always talked about his happy little trees. And so, as he was painting, he says, oh, you have a happy little tree in here, and he needs a friend, and a friend goes over here. Well, so in this particular painting, you can see that these happy little trees here have a lot of friends. Because, we're up in the Rockies. We're in Colorado. Now, I don't want to do too much over here because there's this tree here that's blocking these that are in the background. I just want to try to get these muted down a bit. Without taking over the scene. All right. Well, I look over to the my monitor, and wow, this painting looks really, really, really good on the monitor. You stand back 10 feet, everything blends together, and it's great. Close up, though, I'm like, eh. But then, if you ever looked at a close-up of an impressionist painting, where you have like those that did pointillism, little tiny points of color, like zooming in really tight on a digital photo and seeing all the individual pixels. Yeah. From a distance, it all blends in, just like the song Bette Midler sang. Everything looks peaceful from a distance. And you get up close and you say, oh, what train wreck did this guy paint? So, this area here, I'm not too worried about. I can go ahead and get the locomotive, start working on the locomotive. I'm going to have railroad tracks that come all the way out here. I have to watch normally you'd say, okay, let's watch the vanishing point. On this part of the right here, the locomotive stops, and if you look, you can see on the photo, you can see the rails going back a little ways. So there's not a curve exactly right there, but if you have a long lens and have foreshortening of an object, then you can get away with a lot of things. So the vanishing point is way off the canvas here. So it's way over here, so that's okay. Makes it easier to paint when you have a vanishing point that's off the canvas. You have a vanishing point that's actually in the canvas. then your angles are much more critical. Um, and I've been watching some specials about the old masters, you know, as I go back to study techniques, because I'm, you know, learning. I'm trying to become a little more proficient in both oils and acrylics. And when you study the old masters and their techniques and everything, watched a special on Vermeer, and they actually did a close-up of the canvas, and there's a pinhole in the canvas. And it's like, well, what's this pinhole? You know, why did he put a pinhole in the canvas there? Well, that's because they actually stretched chalk lines and snapped chalk lines on the canvas to create their perspective and get their vanishing point the way they wanted it. And it's like, wow, that's just crazy. So with my vanishing point off the canvas, I don't have to poke holes in and snap chalk lines. Okay. How long have I been going here? 30 minutes this time. I wonder if it cut out after an hour. I wonder if that's a Facebook thing. If like after an hour they're like, okay, you're done. Go away. You know, some of the instructional videos on YouTube that I've been watching, some of them go for 2 hours. And those are edited. I mean, they edit out some small parts of it, like when somebody starts blow drying their canvas, they'll edit that part out, thankfully. If it's a live video, well, nope, you're going to have to put up with it. So, sorry about that. So, I'm actually recording this to the iPad as well. So, I can download it off the iPad and bring it in and do some editing, and it won't be as boring when I'm doing some of the painting, and there's no talking, no explanation of what it is that I'm doing. Or the explanation is I'm not sure I know what I'm doing. I'm attacking this like you wouldn't believe, and trying to learn my way through. The interesting thing is that if you're into painting and you know about brushes, I've pretty much been using this one fan brush all day today. Now when I go into the locomotive now, I'll get away from the fan brush, but since today was going to be all about foliage and that, I figured that, it's going to be fan brush day. And I watched one video, and 90% of what the guy did on, I forget who it was, did a beautiful job on his paintings, of course, and because he's a professional, and a lot of it was fan brush. And even when he did his blending, and of course I did all my blending. I've already done all my blending. I did the background blending and everything when I first started working on this. So we'll show that maybe in another day when I'm painting, and you get to see me start from the very beginning. The very beginning of this is just still pictures that are on Facebook somewhere, and not on my Scotty Paints pages. It's on my regular page where you have to be my friend to see it. So this is really, really white down in here. It gets lighter and lighter. With just a little bit hint of brown. So I might have to add in another color into my palette. But there's a lot of yellow highlights too. So I'm not trying to paint every blade of grass as it appears in the photo. I'm using my artistic license just to make a pleasant looking, interesting looking foreground. Because as you get closer to the front of the painting, your details become more detail. I mean, more specific, you know. Things get larger, plants get larger, flowers get larger. If you paint with a human perspective. Now, if you paint from a photographic perspective, and you're probably asking me, what do you mean by a photographic perspective? Cameras, depending on the lenses, see things differently than we do, and you can, by looking through a camera, you see what the camera sees. It'll adjust. The optics will adjust so that it looks differently than how it, you force perspective. You get foreshortening, and if you have a shallow depth of field, things in front can go out of focus and things in back can go out of focus. And not a lot of artists took into account depth of field, because our eyes have a much greater depth of field than a camera. But if an artist uses a camera obscura, which has a lens, then they would actually see that. And that's why some people think that Vermeer painted with a camera obscura, or what they call a lucida, which has an optic, because at a certain distance away from the viewer perspective of the painting, details became rounder and more out of focus. So it's like, well, you only see that in real life if you squint, or if you have, if you have bad eyesight, you need glasses. And of course, people have been wearing glasses since the 1500s. I mean, when optics really came about, all of a sudden it's like, wait, I can improve my vision by wearing a monocle on this eye, or, it became fashionable to start, improving our eyesight. A lot of people wondered, well, some of these artists, were they somewhat blind? Or they just had bad optics, bad rods and cones in their eyes, and who knows? Okay, 46 minutes for this part, this sitting. So I've been painting, coming up on almost 2 hours of painting. I'm just going to keep with this little carpet of sort of greenish. And I'll come back in and put some more streaks of white in to And I'm keeping this thin because, you know, I put this dirt brownie, this light brown dirty color to be my backdrop. Now, I just made a mess there because too much water. That's where I have an issue with acrylics. It is so easy to get too much water and then stuff becomes runny. That has been my bane with acrylics ever since I got into it. So, you just gotta keep practicing. And so this is really wet right here. So, I'm gonna make some noise. Sorry. Too many buttons. But by the way, I just got this today, and I'm thinking that maybe I told Debbie I'm going to paint flames on the side of it, jazz it up, because I was borrowing hers, and then I had to give it back. So it's like, all right, that's fine. I can do that. That's hers to begin with. I used to have a hairdryer years and years ago. I wore that thing out. It's a small travel one. I got it as a Christmas present from relatives who thought that since I was sporting longer hair than the butch haircut that my father preferred we have. Of course, we got those during the summertime. Dad always gave us butch haircuts, you know, the type where you take and you cut it real short and use the butch wax to wax it up. It was the 60s, man. That's how kids looked. In the summertime and growing up in the desert, absolutely. You want that. Now, looking at the photo, there are some strange, tall, skinny, weedy-looking things. There's no flowers. I mean, this is much, much greener than. I mean, that's the artistic license there. I've made this really green, when in fact it should be darker. Now, actually, along here, once I get the rails put in, that's going to be fun. I get the rails put in and then you see the ties, and because of the distance and the angle, you're not going to see a lot of individual ties. They sort of blend into each other, and there's just sort of a brownish color along here that goes off back. And I don't know that I want rails going all the way back here. We might make this, I might just truncate this so you get the idea that this is coming around a corner. There's the artistic license. I make it look more like it's coming around a corner, so I don't have to mess up this area here with rails going off out of the painting, because I've got much more area on the side of this than in the photograph. If I hold the photograph up here, and if I was thinking, I would have had the photograph set up as something I could switch to, but you know, this is cropped in real tight, so there's just this one bush here in the background, and boom, these go off. So I've got much more distance to play with. I mean, I could add railroady things like, you know, a switch stand. Is there a switch in this area? No, probably not, but you know, you could do that with this. Add that kind of stuff in here to make the painting a little more interesting than just a meadow of fields. But I could put flowers in there and make it more like springtime and jazz it up a bit. And then of course we have the area in between the rails. You know, it's ballast. It's sort of a gray color, rocky ballast. So let's do this. I'm gonna get some lighten this up a bit. I need a little bit of gray. Just a touch of water, not too much. And the fan brush. Question is a fan brush good for making gravel? I think it is. You can tell I'm concentrating about where I'm placing my brush right now because I stopped talking. But I want this to blend in. So this big open hole area here, yeah, that's where the locomotive goes. I got some ballast spillage over here. Is that a proper term? All right, I need to adjust my canvas a little bit because it's actually sitting in the trough. And I need to get it up on the edge so I can get all the way to the edge of the canvas. Ah! That's not what I wanted to do. Where's that elusive third hand when you need it? Maybe that cherub knew something we didn't, huh? I'm going to run the ballast all the way off the edge here. So that when I go to put the rails in, I have a nice ballast base to put the rails on. There we go. We'll leave that like that for now. What's that you say? I should finish up the this area in front here. Get the rest of the foreground done in. Now, one of the things I could do is I could put in like I say, there's some. You look at the photograph. There are some tall, weedy things which are out of focus here, so you're getting these round blobs of light. The lens is creating that. Here, these are more in focus, so you can see what. I'm not sure what those are. I have to go look up Colorado flora and fauna and see what kind of plants these are. They're at the end of the season. This photo was taken in August, so is it August or September? When was he out there? I'll have to go double check. Late August, early September, I think. Might have been September. Because it wasn't that long ago, it seems like. Anyway, I could use artistic license and put some tall, yellow, stocky things in there. I'll tell you one thing, I've gone through the yellow today. I went out and when I first started this painting, I had this cadmium yellow medium, and then this is the light. You can see there's quite a difference there in the tone between these two. I was watching one of the videos, and one person said he doesn't like the medium, he likes the light because it's brighter. And I used the medium earlier on this painting, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to change to this or not, but I figured, well, I used the medium for everything that was in the distance. Maybe for the foreground I should use the light, because as you get closer to the observer, then yeah, you're gonna pick up some brighter colors. You're gonna see brighter colors. So I switched over and figured I'd today try the light. See how that looks. Too wet. Hate when that happens. Alright. Too wet, too green. I want to tone that down a little bit. Put some shading in there. All right. Now I'm in my hurry mode because I think I'm about ready to call it a day for this one. One of the videos that I watched, and it was sped up, and it just had music behind it. It was just, you watch the artist, no explanation of what he was doing. You just watch the artist paint. It was sped up. It was a Russian gentleman. I couldn't even pronounce his name. His videos are like listed under UVN something. His paintings, they look like photographs. I mean, they are so realistic. Which is fine if that's what you're into and that's what you want to do. That's not my style. I want a little more art, impressionistic look to it. When I was taking art history and we were studying impressionists, I was fascinated by the idea that you walk into the gallery and you see something from 10 feet away, and man, it looks really neat. And then as you get closer and closer, it tends to, you start seeing the individual elements, like zooming in on a digital picture and seeing the pixels. And that caught my eye. I like that. I thought that was neat. That happened with a lot of these paintings that I saw at the LA County Art Museum. So I guess my style is more of a impressionist. I want it to, if you stand far away, things look better. Like right now, looking at the monitor and looking at all of the trees up here that look like Italian cypress because they're tall and skinny rather than being more. That's the one thing that's going to be my complaint about. I'll probably go play with them. But anyway, as I'm sitting here looking at them, I'm not happy. But looking on the monitor over there from a distance, the way you're seeing it right now, if you're watching this, man, that looks really good. I'm impressed. But close up, it's like, But they tell you every once in a while you should get up, get back, step back away from your painting, look at it, see what you have, and then go from there. So I haven't stepped back. I haven't gotten out of this chair to step back and look at it, but I get the same effect by looking at my monitor over here, which is showing me the live feed. So in a way, I'm using technology to give me that step back and look away. There's a happy little mistake, as Bob Ross would say. Yeah, we'll fix it later.
We'll do that. Fix it now. All right.
Oh. Okay. Now it's sit back, look at it time. So, still not happy with my trees. I don't like the way they look. I need more work. I need more practice on those. But that just means doing more paintings to get more practice. So, we'll take it from there. So this is about as far as I think I am going to go today. If I was to do anything, more, it would be to rough in the outline of the locomotive. Oh. need sharp, crisp lines at the outside edge of this because we're painting a machine, a piece of painting steel, and copper, and plumbing, and all that stuff. And you want to get it, you want to have nice, clean edges. And there was only a couple of open air cars that were used behind this, and a caboose. And the caboose in this shot, I don't see the caboose at all. I just see the two open air cars. So evidently they had taken the caboose off, or they just ran with the two open air cars this one day. I'll have to go back and look at the videos that are of the runs of this, and one of the things about the open air cars is that in this area here, that's where all the people were, so blobs of color for the people.
So we'll do that.
We have a stack. Stack sticks up.
Up there.
We have steam domes that come down over here. Just rough those in. There's another dome in front of that one, which is the sanding dome. I'm just roughing this in right now. When it comes time to start doing the detailing, that's going to be fun. Hectic. And the front up here is really in the shade, so just giving a little bit of form in there to play with. We'll worry more about details and shading on another session. He says as he continues to play with it. Okay. Did a whoopsie, made a mistake. Stack might be too fat. We'll come back to it. And then we've got, there's the light right about there. We got a front of the smoke box. We'll just it's got to be round. Maybe I should get the compass out so make a nice round front end, because you know you don't want to out of round smoke box. So I'm just roughing this in. Okay. Where are we on time? Oh, actually went over an hour this time. 1 hour 19 minutes. Well, I am getting to the point where I need to put this down and walk away. I don't want to put any more paint on the palette. It's funny, I put a bunch of red out. I didn't use it. But we can do this. We can take, since I've got it out, the background of the light in there. Actually gonna need some more yellow for this. It's interesting to note on the photograph when you look at the color of the cars, which are this Durango Silverton orangish color, and then you look at the headlight here, you've almost got similar tones, similar color and tones carried over into this headlight, and I like that because it brings the two together. If that headlight was brighter and not in the same tone category as what's on the cars, then I think it would look out of kilter color-wise. But I am going to take a little bit of this red that I put out here so I can get some use out of it. Put together some orange. Get that orangish glow going there in the background. And then come back, when that dries, we'll come back and put in some details to get the reflection that's on the back of the reflector in there to brighten it up. So I think that's where I'm going to leave it today. So a lot more details to do. Like I say, I'm not happy with my trees. Still going to play around with those. And I think that's where I'm going to leave it for today. So if anybody's out there watching this, if you joined in, hey, like the page. I'm going to edit this down, put it up on the my new YouTube channel I'm making to go along with this. This was a test. I wanted to see how things worked on Facebook as opposed to, I use YouTube all the time. I've never used Facebook for live streaming, so I thought I'd try it out just to see what it was like, since the software is designed to handle that and everything. So if you stuck around with me for this, hey, thanks. I'll have to go back and look at the comments. I've got a monitor up over here that I've been looking at, and I don't see any comments coming up or going through. If I was on YouTube, on the TV that's on the screen behind me that you can't see, I could have it up on the big screen TV, and I could be able to see the comments much easier on YouTube from a live show. So anyway, maybe I'll play around with that next time. So this is my return to painting. This is my journey back from being away for 40 years, and we'll see how it goes with this first attempt at trying to do something that's railroad artish. Okay, so at this point in time, I'm going to hit the "We are no longer live" button, and we'll see you later. Bye.